All right, we are ready to go. So, good afternoon, Harald. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. From the studios in Fairfax City, we are very humble and grateful that Harald Grosskopf accepted our invitation to our show. Guten Tag, willkommen in their show.
Hola.
Okay, thank you very much. So, with everything that is going on, Harald, with the pandemic, people dying, issues all over the world, vaccine distribution, how is affecting your life, your family, your creativity? Now you cannot do shows, all that kind of stuff.
Well, to not being able to perform live is that's really bad. On the other hand, it's isolation is what artists are used to be. This is the basic of our work. Being isolated and work undisturbed. So it doesn't bother me so much because I'm used to that. My family, well, I have kids aged almost 17, twins, and they had to go to school from time to time. Now it's a lockdown completely until mid of February. My wife is a teacher. She sometimes has to appear too. She had a test result yesterday. 2 days ago. She was with a Corona app. On her phone was alarmed that there was a contact with somebody who was infected, but everything is fine. She already had 3 or 4 tests because at school, there were kids that were infected. But we are very careful, we wear masks, and I'm not going out very much. My wife's doing all the shopping, and she's wearing mask all the time. We're keeping distance and trying to not being infected, because that's, in my age, that's very dangerous, I guess.
Yeah.
Germany was struck not so much in the beginning, but now it's very bad too, and we're all scared that this mutation coming from England will hit us, and that will be very bad for the public health system. I must say we have a very good health system, and it's just very short before its limit. And like in Portugal, it's already above limit, and that's really scary. And from my point of view, what I know is that it's still the beginning. I mean, in Germany, I don't know how much, like 500,000 people are infected, and that's just a very small amount of the population. And we need 60 to 70% people being infected to get herd immunity. The vaccine delivery is a bit slow. We have, I think, 5 categories of who will be get the injection first, and I belong to the second group, and I hope to be vaccinated in 2 months or so.
Sure.
Well, that's about the pandemic.
Yeah, no, I know. Here in the United States also, now we have a new president, and then they will start to accelerate on the vaccine, giving it to more people. They begin the first phase with medical doctors, nurses, and then now they will go to teachers, students, and police, and then third for the rest of the people. So it's funny. My wife also is a teacher, and my
Oh
son is
yeah.
my son is 17 too. And he likes music, man.
Yeah.
Like
So you're a
music.
late father. You're
Yeah,
you're a late father too.
that's
Like
right.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got married again later on in my
How
life.
old what? How old was you?
I'm 58.
You're 58. Okay, then I'm an older
Yeah,
father. I was 54 when my kids were born.
yeah. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing, man.
Uh,
That's great. So let's say where
you
you
never was
I go ahead.
had in mind being a father.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Um, in my early, a lot of work. That's right, but it's a lot of fun too. And but now it's sometimes a bit difficult.
Sure.
But it's we don't have to care so much anymore. Thank God, because that was especially with twins, it's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. So let's go back to the beginning. Were you born like in a musical family, and how old were you
Well,
when you began playing drums and is the first instrument?
I think I was 15. My parents, they played mouth harp and were
Yeah.
in the choir of the Lutheran church. So this was a little bit, but they didn't like my music when I was 15. You know, Beatles and Rolling Stones. They said that is crap. Why don't they sing German? You know. Anyway, the Beatles did. You know, the first hit, "She Loves You," was they sang in German too, but that didn't help to them to like my music. You know.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
then
was
you went,
15. Yeah.
yeah. And then you began taking drumming lesson at the time, or you learn on your own?
No, I'm an autodidact from the beginning, and I tried it once with a drummer that became he was a follow drummer of me in my Wallenstein period, and he was a drum teacher, and I took a lesson, one lesson, and it was so boring, you know, to watching to see all the notes, you know, and then I said myself, I'm done doing this since years, you know, why should I, you know, concentrate on notes? Feeling is much more important, and at the end of this lesson, you know, I told him let's you know jam, and I found out that he couldn't do it. You know, it was so boring stuff that he delivered that I didn't trust him anymore. So that was my only musical lesson ever.
And then you began doing it your own. Do you remember the first vinyl record that you bought on your own?
Actually, I didn't buy very much records all my life. It's very strange. It just happened. You know, I think one of my first records were Beatles, and not all of them. You know, most of the time I recorded on tape recorder. I had this a small tape recorder with the image of a ghetto blaster, very small reels on top, and I recorded that. And during the recording with a microphone, with a very cheap microphone, I was drumming on the table where the microphone was standing on, and so all my drumming was parallel going with that recording of the Beatles album. And a bass player from a local bass player heard that in the local open public pool, and he said, "Hey, who did that?" And I said, "Oh, it's me. I didn't expect that he liked it." He said, "Hey, that's cool. Why don't you play drums?" You know, and that was my initial, yeah, drumming idea. You know.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So let's go back now. You were part of the many 70s band, and I think the first recording you did with the Wallenstein, right? Is that was your first kind of music
Yeah.
group after high school, after gymnasium, you call it gymnasium and the equivalent of
Well,
high
I
school.
didn't actually. I didn't visit a high school. We have three systems. I was in the middle system, and I had a education as a window dresser. You know, for 3 years from 16 to 19. I was working as a window dresser. You know, this was a professional thing, and I didn't really like that job because it was like working in a huge department store, and it was physically very strengthened, and I didn't like it very much because it was boring, and it was just carrying things. And in the beginning I thought that would be a creative job, but it wasn't at all. And when it stopped in 1969, I was very happy, to leave this job.
And then that was when you became part of the Wallenstein barn, or
Yeah,
that would be
by accident, I
really?
was I had a band, a beat band when in between 15 and 17, 18,
Yeah.
and that fell apart because we all had to go to the military, and that most of the time that really killed bands, because you just couldn't meet anymore. And when I came back from my military, I refused to do that. You had to go through a court, and so I worked I was only for 3 months at the military, and after that I had a substitute work for that in hospitals, and that was very interesting. And I was very, very close to decide becoming a doctor, because I found that very interesting. It was very bloody, and it was sometimes very existential experiences there. But I really liked it because it made sense to work in hospitals. So, and after that I came back, and we had a little community with with two of my old band members, but it's still, we couldn't get it together. And accidentally, two guys came one day because a friend had met them in Hanover, and they had a casting date with a drummer, and the drummer didn't appear. And so he brought them to our house, and he said, "You can stay there, and there's a drummer, ask him, he's looking for a band." And so that was the start of Wallenstein. First of all, our band name was Blitzkrieg, but there was a British band with the same name, and we feared complications, so we changed the name into Wallenstein, and I recorded 4 albums until 1974.
Yeah. How many albums you guys did with Wallenstein, and what was your 3, 4?
4.
And then was any success in terms of selling records and playing different theaters and pubs?
It was not really a success. It was, I think, the success from the outside view was much bigger than a financial success. In these days, krautrock, and we belong to that period. I think it's much more popular than it was in those times. It was also very frustrating. It was really poverty and not having much money, and the band was not so much together as a team, like I experienced it later with Klaus Schulze and Ashra. And I was fed up, and in 1974 I said, okay, I quit, and I don't want to join the band anymore, even without knowing about my future, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And in that period I met Manuel Goettsching and Florian Fricke from Popol Vuh.
Yeah.
And so Popol Vuh, Florian phoned me, and
Really?
said, wow. Yeah, and he said, I heard, because we were at the same record company, Pilz Record.
That's right.
And I like this music, very original music, and very enthusiastic. I packed my drums, and he said, come to Munich and we check it out. And so I went down there, but I was a drummer with, heavy rock drummer, and they play like this, There was in that rehearsal room was just a piano, not amplified, and Daniel had a very small amp and played, volume accordingly to that piano, and I with sticks, and I think as a drummer you need to, you play like physical, and I just couldn't do it, to that music, and so a few days later I left very frustrated that I couldn't join Popol Vuh, because I really liked it,
Very good music. Yeah.
And if I would be able, in these days now you have sticks with, with light, like jazz brushes and stuff. That would be the thing I would have, should have done these days, but that was very frustrating, yeah.
Yeah, Popol Vuh became very, very famous, and with all the different members, and then Bernard Herzog, when he was putting movies, he saw, man, I love this music, because Bernard Herzog movies, they're very, very special. So he needed a very special band, right? Everybody was, at the time, in the 70s and 80s, everybody was using, I don't know, Tangerine Dream for the electronic sound and all kind of stuff. But Popol Vuh was different, and there was a good mix with the Werner Herzog movies, and they did very well. And I never understood. Florian Fricke died very young, right?
Yeah, he had a infection of his heart, and that was detected very late, and it struck him down. I think he was, I don't know when that was, but that's quite time. It's quite a long time already. But it was very touching when I heard that news. You know, unfortunately, I never had contact after our strange meeting in 1974. You know, but
Yeah.
I know we didn't split as enemies or anything. We still had a good friendship and a very good goodbye. That was just I wasn't able to cope with that low volume of the band. You know, this relaxed volume. I was just too, how do you say that? Too physical. You know.
I know. I know what you mean. It's yeah. A lot of people from that bands have some are not involved in music anymore. Danny is the only one that I think, I'm not sure he's the only one, but he's the one with a mole duel now. And yeah, I'm trying to get a hold of him. I would love to interview him because that music is very important to me, you know.
His father was a popular jazz musician. Did you know
Danny's
that?
father? Danny's father?
Yeah, Daniel's father. Yeah,
I had no idea.
and that's who he was. That was his background. I think he was very much into drugs in those times when I visited him, and Florian complained very many times. Oh, you know, he's selling his Gibson guitar, you know, and I have to get it back, you know, and you can't rely on him and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but still, he was a very genius musician, you know, a lot of feeling, and that's why Florian kept on him, you
Danny,
know.
yeah.
He was a good drummer too, you know,
Really?
guitarist,
Yeah,
drummer,
yeah.
you know. Yeah, I mean, that was the problem. That's why they were looking for a drummer because Daniel couldn't play both on stage, you know. So and Daniel wanted to play guitar, and so that's why they were looking for a drummer. I don't know whether after this incident with me, whether they had a drummer at all, you know, until Florian passed away.
Sure. Plus, in pop and boo, right? There is not, like you mentioned before, Harold. It's not rock and roll drum. It's very very soft. It requires a different talent, as if you need like a percussionist more than a drummer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
I think today it would be no problem to cope to that music, you know. But in those days, I was too much struck into rock music, you know, and really heavy rock music, and I couldn't put the switch. It just happened with Ashra. I did, you know, and that's yeah.
I understand. So feel free now to elaborate on the work with the Cosmic Jokers.
Yeah.
Feel free to
So,
elaborate on that, your
well, it
participation, what you
was.
like about that, and
I think I only like the Cosmic Joker A side, you know, and all the other albums and B sides were not so intense and magic as the A side of Cosmic Joker. You know, Cosmic Joker really represented what I felt during these enormous amount of sessions we did. You know, there should be much more music on tapes from my feeling and from my remembering, and who knows where that has disappeared, you know. If there's maybe one day somebody will dig out those tapes, but yeah, okay, the sessions were under influence of LSD a lot, you know,
yeah,
and it was for me it was a very existential experience, you know. I had experience with LSD before, but that was very special because on one of those trips, I discovered that I was copying other drummers, you know, like I was a fan of Ginger Baker, Billy Cobham, McDonald's and Giles, you know, Michael Giles, drummer, and all these very interesting, good drummers. And I was trying to copy their style. And when I was on LSD on one of those sessions, you know, I had this voice in my head that said, Harold, why don't you just play and listen to the others instead of being Billy Cobham and then wow, trying to impress the musicians with this second-hand copy, you know. And then I started just drumming and listening, and that was for me, that was a very, very big change in my whole career as a drummer.
Yeah, it's like when you I never done any drugs, but for the people that do LSD, it's like you have an altered state kind of stuff where.
Well, I think, you know, I don't want to say, you know, I don't want to publish that it's good to take LSD. You know, we just did it, and
Well, a lot of bands did it.
a lot of bands did it, and I think it's a very dangerous drug. I've seen a lot of musicians very close, you know, being mentally ill from it, or maybe they were before, and it just broke out. Like Jerry Berkers, our singer in Wallenstein, he died, I think 2006 or maybe earlier. I don't know. No, that was Hartmut Enke. He had big problems. A genius bass player, and he disappeared by this drug, you know. And it had to do with our historical past, you know. Our parents were Nazis, and there was this big clash between the generations. And you know, all my teachers, there were, you know, Nazi teachers, or most of them, not the younger ones, but you know, they had this dark education and this aggressive form of teaching. And to rebel against that, you know, we let our hair grow and did all that stuff that was forbidden or provoked these people, you know.
Yeah.
And the psychological traumata these parent generation brought from their experience during the war, soldiers, civilists, you know, the bombardments on Germany, that left a lot of traumata, you know, which probably was transported into the genes. So we were, my generation is a generation full of genetical traumata, you know. I believe in that, and then it's scientific also proven that this can happen, you know.
Yeah, it's so sad, and that people, you know, die. And you know, Lutz was telling me yesterday that with Nico was taking a lot of drugs, and it destroy your life. You know, eventually you will die. You
Of
know,
course.
and
That's
people
right.
that are 40 years old, that they have, you know, 30 years in front of them to do music, and they, you know.
Yeah, it's sad, and I think drugs are in general. If you can't get rid of it one day, you know, it can destroy your life, of course, you know. And we were very naive, and we did it because, like, everybody did it in those times, and we had no, I don't know, we had no experience really what it and no idea what it can do in the future with us. And we did it very naive, and when we made our experiences, and they are a fact of our history. So I can't deny that I took all kinds of drugs, you know, for a period in my life, and I'm happy that I survived it. And
Totally. Yeah.
71. So.
So going back to the Cosmic Joker, the album in 73 and 74, there gotta be a way. Somebody must have recorded those sessions, right? They gotta be somewhere, you know.
I mean, you know, Dieter Dierks was, most of the times he was there when it was recorded, and I saw the tape recorder winding all the time. Yeah. And there must be, I don't know, 40 hours of music somewhere, you know. Yeah. And because of the clash Rolf Ulrich Kaiser and his girlfriend Gilla had with paying and stuff, I don't know where that stuff is. Maybe in those times it was not as popular, or it wasn't seen as popular as it is probably now, you know. So and then a lot of people said, okay, you know, it doesn't sell, let's forget it, you know, which is very sad, because I think there must be music that would be worth to put it in public.
Absolutely right. It's always the musicians, right, like yourself, don't see the business side. It requires, you know, a business savvy person within the band or within the studio where you were recording, say, man, you know, this stuff has, you know, promise. Let's save it somewhere, you know, put
Yeah,
it away
because it
somewhere
was
just in case, you know.
it was emotional, you know, and I always made music, you know, because I liked it, you know, and I kind of sacrificed my life sometimes, and I had very times where, or a lot of times where I didn't have money and didn't know how to survive the next day. On the other hand, this is a very important experience, and it made me to what I am now.
Absolutely, man. And then you went, then after that, you did starring Rosie with Ashra Temple, right?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful album. I listened to it. And how the name, who is Rosie? I know who he is, but for people that for our listeners that don't know who was Rosie.
Rosie was Rosemarie Müller was a real name. Was the girlfriend of Manuel, you know,
Manuel, yeah.
and she was always with him when we recorded. And one day there was a microphone, and she started screaming into it, you know, and that's why I mean, she couldn't really sing, but it was somehow, you know, we did it, and it was okay. And then when she left Manuel in 1981 or 82, she went to New York. She's married in New York since 82, and I met her when I had a session in New York at a festival called the Unsound Festival, at a club called Le Poisson Rouge in Manhattan. It was a little festival, very nice, and with my colleague Axel, we performed, and Rosie and her husband was there, and that was in 2013. In 2011, sorry, and that's where I met her after all that time. That was really nice. You know, we have now contact with emails talking about the pandemic in New York and stuff, and she's a good person. Yeah.
That's great, man. Yeah. And then you did the Correlation in 1979. That's a beautiful album too. So feel free to elaborate on the album, the experience. How was it like to work with Ashra versus Ashra Temple and so forth?
I really liked Manuel's work, you know, and he visited me in that time when I met Florian, you know, maybe, I don't know, a week before that. He came back with Lutz from a tour from France, and then because I wasn't living in Berlin, it was on the way in Western Germany, and so I was very surprised because I didn't have a phone then, you know, so my doorbell rang and I opened it, and Manuel was there. Hello, you know, and then he said, "Oh, you don't have a band now," and so we said, "Okay, maybe we can come together." I said, "Okay, you live in Berlin. Let's see how it works," you know, and no, that time it just didn't happen. On the same time, I was listening to Black Dance from Klaus Schulze in the radio. I didn't like very much his record Irrlicht, you know, that was my vision of his music, you know. I found that too intellectual, and Black Dance was full of melodies and sequencer rhythms, and I was fascinated. I heard it in the radio, and then I wrote him a letter, I guess, because I didn't have a phone. And 2 weeks later, I had an answer. Why don't you visit me? I don't live in Berlin anymore. I live in another area in Germany. Come on, visit me, and we can talk. And then that's what we did. And he said, let's go to my basement. There's my Moog, this huge thing, you know. I had seen, you know, he had bought it from Florian, by the way, you know, because Florian he just couldn't handle this electron. It was not his trip. He bought it. It was very expensive in those times, and then Schulze bought it for a very good price. And so he had this thing in his basement, and he switched on the sequencer, and I had goosebumps, wow, fucking groove, and so, and then I was looking around, no drums, and I took a plastic casket, turned it around and drummed on it, bam, 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 and Schulze laughed, and I said, fantastic, let's do, next record we do together. That was Moondom,
Moondom, yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
How is it like to work with before we go into the Klaus Schulze area? How is it like to work with Manuel? I mean, Manuel Goettsching. He's so famous.
It was later, It was later. It was very nice too. Very different from my work with Wallenstein. Wallenstein was, we worked like crazy. Like when we rehearsed like 5 days a week, every time 5 to 7 hours, and for months, and to get a dance program together. And so that was my idea of a band, but Ashra was completely different. Manuel, like he had some lines, and Lutz, they sat on a sofa, unamplified, the electric guitar, and I had just drumsticks, and then listened to what they did, and then we started improvising, and Virgin Record. Manuel was with Virgin Record, Richard Branson. They said, nice music, but you need a producer, And we said, fucking producer? We don't need a fucking producer. We are, we are musicians. We don't need that, But he said, okay, if you don't have a producer, you can't bring out a record on our label. So they sent us Mick Glossop, young guy. We met, nice guy, and what he did, he just sitting on the sofa in the mixing room and listened to what we did. And from time to time, there was another, Eberhard Panner, who was the guy who recorded all that. From time to time, Mick just stood up and said, "Hey, that's nice. That's a nice direction. Great. Just keep on." And then he was laid back. And in the end, he said, Eberhard, to the mixing guy or to the recording guy, and said, "Maybe let me take over now." And then he started mixing our music, and we were thrilled because he was just mixing a piece of it, like a very emotional with the faders, the bass drum, and he kind of put dynamic into it. We never had, we never experienced that before. And then you immediately felt when he had a emotional break, and then he stopped, and then he recorded or he mixed another part of that song, and then he cut it together, and that was a correlation, and it sold very well, and that was a nice experience. And Mick Glossop is a very famous producer these days on Van Morrison and the whole punk scene later, and yeah, that was a very nice experience. We're still in contact from time to time. I met him in London, and that was a good thing. And it was completely the opposite of that what we had in mind a producer will do. We saw a producer is there, oh, you don't do that, and you do that and that and that, and we don't want to hear that. That's what the idea we had of a producer, and he was completely the opposite. He kind of supported and vitalized our ideas,
And then that's it, right, sure. So with correlation, with the producers and Virgin Record, the correlation album did very well. You start making money at the time, or you still were very poor? A little bit of money?
Yeah, we never made a lot of money, because we had advance money, which was quite a lot, but we had to pay the studio, and when you rent a studio for 3 weeks, and then that was in Frankfurt, we needed breakfast, we needed hotel rooms, there was not so much left. Maybe after what was left in the share, it was like living. You know, you had enough for making a living half a year or something like that. You know, and we never really made a lot of money in those times.
Enough to survive, you know.
Enough to survive somehow, you know. And I was working as a roadie, you know, for big concert in Berlin. I worked for David Bowie. I worked for Genesis. I worked for Queen. I worked for Santana. I worked for Boney M. I worked for Ella Fitzgerald. I worked for all kinds of huge acts. You know, ABBA. You know, I made the light, one big spotlight for ABBA and stuff like that. And that's where I made money to survive sometimes. You know, not every day, but like 2 or 3 times a month. I did that for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a difficult job because you guys need to put all the stuff together, then deassemble that, put them back in the truck, and drive the truck to the next city, the next city, the next city. You had the opportunity. Do you have the opportunity to meet those artists or not? Like Bowie and did you have the opportunity to meet them, like Bowie or Genesis? No, no, you were.
You know, we were called stage humpers. That was even below the roadies. You know,
the roadies, right?
Their actual crew. You know, so we were just hired locally in Berlin for the big festival or for the big main event hall. Yeah. So I mean, I saw them. I was on a stage and made the steam for Queen, you know. I was like 6 guys had, you know, there was, you know, how to dry ice, you know, like boxes with dry ice that was in heated water and a casket, you know, and then in that was hammered dry ice, and on a signal, you know, we put that casket into the hot water, and then we had big tubes, and then we had to move them, and then the fat smoke came out like 1 meter high and floating from the back side of the stage to the front, and floating off stage, and in the middle there was Eddie Mercury singing, you know.
But at least you did have the opportunity to listen to those bands, you know.
Okay, yeah, and sometimes I had the feeling, my God, it's not so really good than I expected, you know. Like David Bowie was a very cool dude. He was living in Berlin, by the way, and he was visiting one of the gig of Klaus Schulze and me at the National Gallery. It was a huge place, 2,000 people, and it was a festival called Meta Music Festival.
Yeah,
and gamelan music. Steve Reich, Philip Glass, you know, the minimal music, and Klaus Schulze, and we had our performance, and people thought, you know, David Bowie was here, and we know that he was interested in electronic music, and he had contact to Edgar Froese and Tangerine Dream, and yeah, it was an interesting time. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. And then you began working with Klaus Schulze. Did you needed to learn? So you went from, you were a drummer, but you need to learn synthesizer, electronic before you began working with Klaus Schulze, or you learn on your own as you went?
I didn't touch a synthesizer when I worked with Klaus. That was so complicated, you know. It was like, you know, you were stepping into a cockpit of an airplane, and somebody said, "Come on, fly," you know.
Yeah. Oh.
It was for me. It was very. I wasn't even interested because I felt myself. I'm a drummer, and much later, like in 1979, a friend of mine, he unfortunately died 2 years ago, Udo Hansen of You. I had this phone call in Berlin. I was living in Berlin, and then he phoned and said, "Hey, I'm an electronic musician. I know what you did, and I want to show you my music, and whether I'm interested to meet him." And we met, and in his car we heard his music. I said, "Oh, very interesting." And he said, "Why don't you make a solo record?" I said, "A solo record? You know, I'm a drummer. You know, who wants to listen to solo drums for 50 minutes? You know." So, and I said, "Well, you played with Ashra and Klaus Schulze." I mean, I said, "Well, just own a very little micro Moog, and it just doesn't interest me so much. And he said, well, I can help you. You have an 8-track recorder, but I have a mixing desk and I have several synthesizers. Come to my place. You can stay there. You can record, you know. And so I went home. I said, well, why not? You know, Ashra has nothing to do right now because other than Wallenstein, we never rehearsed, you know, maybe just 2 days before we made a tour. So the rest of the year, nothing happened. And so I went to this friend's place and recorded a Synthesist for 6 weeks. And most of the time during night, smoking a lot of illegal substances, you know. And it was very complicated because the old synthesizers like the Mini Moog, they were very tuning unstable, you know, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so, you know, it was horrible, you know. So, but I recorded a sequence for like, I don't know, 8-10 minutes and a second one. And during listening to it, you know, after 2 minutes, cacophonia. So I had to start it over and over again to get it stabilized. We put a light bulb of 60 watt just behind the Mini Moog to get a steady heat behind that, and that worked, you know. So that was a bit of a, yeah, it was very, very primitive, but it was for me was a, I don't know, was a mental opening for electronic music, which I do, you know. And yeah, that's why I started getting addicted to echoes and sequencers and synthetic sounds.
Before we go into synthesis, do you any particular album that you like better with Klaus Schulze, like Moon Dawn and Body Love and
Yeah, the
Live X,
10,
Volume 2?
Body Love 1, Moon Dawn, and the 10th album. And after that, I must admit that I didn't listen very much to him because he produced so much music after that. And for me, I think it's not really new. It's not really something, a step forward, you know. It's just a repetition of what he had done in the past. So that's why I didn't listen to him anymore. And maybe this is a mistake, but I anyway don't listen so much to other music. I love mostly sitting in my little studio, which I finally was able to build up in 2004, you know, which is just 16 years ago. And that was the first time where I was able to independently produce music.
Yeah.
And this is for me being alone and working
do your own
music.
thing,
That's
right. Some bands like Klaus Schulze, right, has over 150 CDs of vinyl. Tangerine Dream, like 300 between soundtrack and everything. So I don't know, maybe half is good. The other is a repetition of what they did the previous albums. You know, easy for me to say, but it's not.
I'm very close to Thorsten Queschnik, who's the keyboarder of together with who was the keyboard of A Tangerine Dream 15 years before Edgar passed away. And in last year we met a few times and we recorded stuff together. He's a very nice person, good musician, and I told him, you know, seriously, the period during the last 10 years, I really didn't like very much because that was not Tangerine Dream. That was not the old stuff. That was not really pop music. And he agreed, you know. And I was very curious when I heard, you know, the completely new members, Thorsten, Ulrich Schnauz, and this Japanese girl.
Yeah.
And so I went to a concert near my hometown here. And I was really surprised that, wow, that's Tangerine Dream suddenly, you know, and their live performances are now much, much better than during the last 15 years, you know.
I interviewed Thorsten like 3 months ago. Yeah, we talk about the stuff. There was a period in Tangerine Dream where the quality was, they were putting record after record. I don't know, maybe they needed money or whatever, but it wasn't the same thing, right? And then, but
Yeah, yeah.
recently it's very good, yeah. And Ulrich, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ulrich, he's a very good musician too.
Oh yeah, he's a
Unbelievable. He's very, very good. I mean, I like,
very yeah, very original. Now Paul Frick is another new member, and
yeah,
whenever you
also,
have the
yeah,
chance, listen to Brandbrauer Frick. You know, with the trio. You know, I can send you a link. You should listen to their music.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like they did techno. Have you already?
No, I have not listened to Paul Frick
Yeah.
like his
Yeah, and
with the trio. No,
they did techno music with analog instruments, you know.
really?
No, yeah,
Wow.
partly, you know, and I was listening to them live, and I was really thrilled. They're very emotional and very danceable, and I really liked that. And I found out when I heard that the first time, I saw accidentally Brandbrauer Frick on YouTube and said, "Wow, interesting. Who is it?" You know, and then I checked on Facebook, and I found, oh, this is Paul Frick, a member of Brandbrauer Frick, and I said, "Hey, Paul, nice music. I really like." I said, "Harald, I like your music. Synthesist, you know, I'm a big fan."
Yeah.
And last year we planned with Thorsten together and Paul to do some live concerts, and unfortunately, the fucking pandemic, you know, killed that idea. I hope not forever, but right now it's like what it is, you know.
Gotcha. And then with your solo album in 1980 with Synthesist, man, that changed your life, man. That
Oh
was a
yes,
period that changed your life, like before and after, because then that album became very, very famous, and it's a
yeah, yeah.
very good album.
The thing is that I was because I'm not a keyboarder, you know. I had the feeling, okay, I'm a drummer somehow, you know, because I had
Sure.
experience for already a couple of years, and so I felt myself I can drum, you know, but I'm not a keyboarder, but I have a feeling for melodies and stuff, and somehow I managed to record this album, you know. And in those times, it would have been possible to sell a lot of records, you know. So my expectation was 100,000, you know, Ashra is 50,000, and 100,000 would be nice, you know. And I just sold 10,000, and I was completely disappointed. And I thought, nobody likes my music, and fuck it, you know. And there was no internet, and you didn't have the replies and the response like it's happening nowadays, you know. So you don't, I didn't know where it was, you know. And I didn't listen to it for 10 years, you know, because I said, okay, it's nobody likes it. It was a mistake somehow, you know. And I was really surprised when in 2009 young labels suddenly, hey Harold, you know, let's reissue the album. And in New York it happened, and then another German label.
Yeah.
And suddenly, since I am connected to the internet, you know, I get this incredible worldwide response to Synthesist, you know.
And people like the cover too, which it was very different at the time. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's a very, very, very good album. It's a very good album. Yeah, all right.
It's my it's
That's
my
a mouse? That's a mouse pad?
it's a mouse pad.
Wow, what about you, man? All right, you will need to send me one, man. I would like to have. And
Yeah.
it's the same with it's the same with Manuel Goettsching, the album E2, E4.
Hmm,
It
hmm.
was it didn't have, of course, now is, you know, your album, you know, 30, 40 years after, is very well known, very popular. The same with E2, E4, it didn't do that well. And for, you know, it's an
Yeah.
unbelievable album, you know.
Yeah,
But
I
also,
think it's because of
it,
the techno scene.
yeah,
Techno passed away with me because I was too old already. I didn't go into clubs in the 80s and in the 90s.
uh,
I felt too old, you know, to cope with I don't know, 15, 16, 20 years old girls or people. And so that's why I didn't get what it's about techno. And accidentally, that was in, I don't know, in I think in the beginning of the 90s, you know. yeah, or let's say middle of the 90s, middle of the 90s, there was a little festival with electronic traditional Berlin style music in the Netherlands, and there was this young guy and said, I'm a journalist and I'm working for the IQ label. That's a label of Sven Feth, you know, the famous techno DJ. And I just had read in German big political magazine Spiegel on the cultural feuilleton, you know, wow, very famous guy worldwide, blah blah blah. And he said, well, you know that these people, they know what you've done, and you know they said electronic music from Germany, Klaus Schulze, whatever, Krautrock is a very big influence on techno music. And wow. And then I went to visit them and shaking hands with Sven Feth, and that was very, very nice. And there was a young musician, his name was Oliver Lieb, and he had a project called The Ambush. And I was listening to his music, like, wow, you know, drumming and, you know, bar dancing and very, very great sound. And he said, you can join in, you know. So I went there next week, and I joined in for the last song he was working on. And then he said, we had an invitation to the famous Montreux Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
Very famous festival. And he said, the whole label and the artists are invited to go to Genève, where the festival is happening. We did that, had a great performance with 4 drummers, you know, 1 percussionist, 3 drummers, including me, and he on samplers and stuff, and people flipped out. It's recorded. You can see it on YouTube. And I thought, wow, this, and then that I was open the first time for techno music, but it already had its peak, you know. That was in 97, you know. Techno had its cultural peak reached, and all the techno labels, they died because the big companies didn't want to support it anymore. The sales went back, so it kind of shrunk to the people who invented techno. You know, they're still, you know, are worldwide on the road performing techno. And yeah.
And I think after 40 years, they did a reissue for the 40 years anniversary with a double vinyl and a CD package. I think it was released by Bureau B.
Bureau B, yeah.
That was, I don't have that album, but I have the original that you put together, and I put it online in I think in London. And it's selling well, or the double? It's selling well, the double.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, it was a limited edition, like
right?
500. Yeah, I mean, you can't sell a lot of records these days. To tell the truth, the business is destroyed, and you sell more vinyls than CDs these days. You know, but still, you can't compare it with the 70s and beginning 80s when after that it started going down very, very heavily. And it's so the 500 copies, they were gone, and I had I was lucky to buy some of them, so I still have some in stock and selling them via my Bandcamp account.
I would buy.
Yeah, my Bandcamp account. You can find the Bandcamp address on my Facebook account.
Sure, yeah. And the other thing I noticed that. In your second solo album, Ocean Heart, didn't appear much later. I think in 86 or 97, but
yeah, 5 years later, 85.
Why is that? Any reason for that?
What do you mean? Why it took so long, or
why it took so long to appear in catalog? It was
because I was frustrated with Synthesist. You know,
really.
So the sales were bad, and I thought, you know, nobody really liked it. You know. And that was bringing me down. But I, as far as Ashra was not very active, and we tried to reunite it with other members, Agitation Free in that times when Nico was in Berlin, and it didn't work. And so I said, okay, I have to do something, you know. And I founded a new German wave band that was not very successful too, very crazy stuff. And during that period, I said, I got to do something, and I started working with the technical possibilities I had, 8-track recorder and little studio in Berlin. So I worked on the basic, took it to the studio of Chris Franke, you know, Tangerine Dream, and recorded drums and mixed it there. And because it also came into that period where you couldn't sell any more huge amounts of records, and the company said, okay, we just sold 5,000, you know, half of what we. So in these days, people would kiss our feet if you would sell 5 or 10,000, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was another frustration. But it took quite a while to listen to the music and to recognize myself and the positive spirit I had, you know, the enthusiasm and the naivety. It's there, and now I really like it, you know.
Oh, it's a very beautiful. I own that one. I have listened. It's very good. The other thing is, for people that don't know, right? Berlin is the mecca of electronic music. There are so many great musicians from your generation in the 90s, 2000, as if anybody walking down the street in Berlin is playing keyboard. You take it's hard to compete, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I think it's a big city, but there, you know, in these days, you know, it's very hard for young musicians to be recognized in public. You know, it's even more complicated than in our days, and so there are a lot of very interesting music, because in these days speculating to become famous and making money is not the goal anymore. So people are thrown back to being creative and emotional. So that's a very good potential for original music. And of course, in big towns, big cities, the density of good creative musicians are much bigger than anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you have your trio called Lilli Berlin. How did it go with that?
Yeah.
What year?
Well,
what year are we talking about now?
I have to think. I think it was 80. Yeah, when during the time when I recorded, or a little after I recorded a Synthesist.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because nothing happened with Synthesist, you know, because you know it takes half a year before you get the first accounts, how much you sell. There was just very few promotion in the press. So I had nothing to do, and I started this trio with a friend of mine and a female singer who couldn't sing, you know. But I had to leave the studio sometimes because she was singing so out of tune. But it was somehow crazy, you know. And well, we had some success in Berlin, and we did some touring, and she was really crazy, very punk styled, and yeah, and we had a lot of fans in East Berlin, you know, because we made a very ironic song about you know, the West Berlin, you know, is bad, but people in East Germany, East Berlin, they really know how to party, and you have this Stasi, you know, this secret service that is putting up, and we recorded a video on how do you say that, a tourist post,
yeah,
to watch across the border, you know, and on that thing we recorded that, you know, and we call it East Berlin Crazy, or because Ostberlin Wahnsinn, East Berlin Crazy, and that had a good reaction and even later, because in those times you couldn't you didn't hear much about reaction from the East, but later, after the wall came down, you know, a lot of.
Yeah, I got you. I think you froze for a while. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you froze for a while. And but you didn't in the trio. You didn't have any albums or CDs, right? No, you didn't record anything, right?
No, it took
No.
quite a long time. I left Berlin to work with Udo Hansen. You know the
Yeah.
guy Udo. I don't know how you come. Are you? Do you know about you?
I heard his name Udo, but I
Yeah.
don't know him. I have no.
Anyway, we wanted to work together, so I left Berlin and went to the Rhine area where he was living and expecting to work because he was a laser light artist. You know, he worked for Karl Lagerfeld, BMW, blah blah blah, and so I thought we could make incredible, crazy shows with electronic music, drums, and laser and stuff that was very up to date. But it didn't work very well with him. Uh, but the only thing what was coming out of it was an album called Central Europe Performance. You know,
Yeah.
we call it the title was Breakfast in the Ruins, and Central Europe Performance. A very nice album. I don't know. I can send you a link. You can
That would be good.
download it on. You heard it?
No, I don't have it.
Central,
I would love to see if you never
Band,
heard that.
you can listen to it on Bandcamp and can buy it too.
Yeah.
So it's a download as a download, and yeah, that was the only album I made in that time. And after that, I started recording my third album, my
Yeah.
third solo album,
Yeah.
and slowly, very slowly, I recorded more and more my own stuff. But many times with one or two colleagues until now. Yeah.
And I believe that in '97 you reunited with Ashra, and you guys did some concert in Japan as well, right?
Yeah, that was very surprising, and that was in '97. That
Yeah.
was in the time short after the time I was talking about the Sven Feth thing. Manuel called me and said, "Hey, after a very long time, I'm at the Wax Museum in Tokyo." I said, "What? You are in Tokyo?" No, no, I am at in the Wax Museum. I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "There's a figure of me in the Wax Museum in that very famous Tokyo Tower, a huge tower, size even bigger than the Eiffel Tower in Paris. You know, a red thing, and the owner is a big fan of me, and he put me into a glass vitrine and with my guitar, the image of my early 20s, you know, and we can make a little tour in Japan. Would you like to join in?" So, "Oh, Japan, of course, you know." And my second thought was not the way we did it in France in 1977, you know, because it was so complicated because we had one Moog for the bass and for some sequences, and Manuel had to tune the sequencer every time, you know, changing the sound, and that took 5 minutes in between the song. 5 minutes on stage as a drummer, you know, boring time. And
Sure.
I said, "What can we do? This doesn't work, you know." And so I in 1997, I'm after this event with Sven Feth, I met musicians in my area. He was a fan, a very young guy. He was 24, and people told me, "Oh, there's a studio in your area. If you like, you know, here's a telephone number. Phone him." I said, "Okay," and then I phoned, and wow, very interesting communication, very smart, and a lot of knowledge about music. Great fan of our music. And I said, "Visit me," and I went to the studio. And we immediately recorded an album together. We called it N Tribe, and we recorded, and then we recorded later on solo albums of mine with his help, you know. But I thought, well, he knows how to handle modern electronic equipment, you know, like samplers and stuff. And when Manuel phoned me, I had a ticket to a vacation in India for 5 weeks. And I said, "Well, okay, you know, I'm flying to India tomorrow, you know. how do you think we can handle? I would like to come to Japan. On the other hand, I would like to go to India too. And he said, okay, it's in 7 weeks, you know, in March. And I said, okay. I let's when I'm in India, we phone, but I have to just suggest you to a friend of mine, a young guy. He knows how to play sampler, and he could sample all the sequences we need to perform Ashra music, you know.
Sure.
And Manuel is always a bit skeptic in the beginning. And then I told Steve, hey, Steve, phone him, you know. And so I flew to India without not knowing what will happen. So the first, and I had to send faxes, you know, very in India, very complicated to send a fax. You know, so I sent a fax. How did it go with Steve? And Manuel answered, "Okay, Steve is in, you're out." It was fun, you know, and so we managed to have Steve, and he recorded, you know, day and night all the samples and sequences and some and little and he played a little keyboard, you know, all the you know the chords and stuff by hand, but all the sequences, and he did it with a software where we can say, you know, 1 2 3 4 change, you know, 1 2 3, and we could really provide as long as we want, and just to his sign 1 2 3 4 palm change. And then we performed. It was fantastic. It was great experience, and it sounded much better than ever before. And we had great fun performing 4 gigs in Japan, and the young people really liked it, you know.
And yeah, and I think that museum doesn't exist anymore, I think, right?
What
that museum, that wax museum doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, really? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah. Lutz told me yesterday that after the museum, there was a wealthy Japanese person, and I don't know if the museum they move it or destroy it, they move the figure somewhere else, but that's what Lutz told me yesterday.
Okay, that could be. I have no idea because I didn't know that. So I will check it out. Because when we were the second time without Lutz in Japan, it was still there. It was even bigger. Yeah. Manuel's vitrine was in the meantime packed with stuff, and even 2 days ago we had with the set lift of our gig, it was already in there, you know. Really? Anyway, yeah, and there's a little record store. It was full of Ashra, Klaus Schulze. You can think of it. And I didn't know that, you know, could be that it's not there anymore. Yeah.
And then you team up with Eberhard Kronemann, right?
Yeah, Eberhard, genau. Eberhard, there was a little festival in my hometown here in a middle-aged castle, you know. I performed with another musicians. I performed in the little chapel of that old castle, and Eberhard was in another room on a different time, so I was able to listen to him. And I didn't know my cat was crying. I didn't know Eberhard before, not even his name, you know. And so because he joined Kraftwerk, he founded Kraftwerk, and he left Kraftwerk because they didn't make money in the beginning, you know. And he had a family, he had to make money. Anyway, so I was curious what he is doing, and he was doing very, very, you know, controlled noise, I would say. And after a minute, I had to leave his performance because it was very, very hard to cope with, you know. And then I forgot about it, and 3 weeks later, he phoned me, and I said, "Oh, I really liked your performance. We should do something together." And I was very skeptic, and I said, "Okay, he's living around the corners, not much, no big deal. So if it doesn't work, I can leave, and then it's fine." And we went there, and we made a session immediately, and he recorded everything. And from my point, it was 80% trash and unusable, but there was very, very, very nice parts in it, you know. Yeah. And I said, you know, give me the record, and he copied it on CDs, and I took it into my studios and cut it very nice, and I made a record out of it. and we added here and there things, and he really loved it, and we made we called it Krautwerk, you know, with the same fonts, with the same letters of a Kraftwerk poster he had made 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and I went to the patent office, you know, patent, how do you say that?
Yeah, patent office.
Patent office, and they said, okay, the name, this is my name, you know, and so I had to pay money, and after a while they said, okay, this is your Krautwerk, this is your name. And what happened? Ralf Hütter from Kraftwerk and his lawyers, you know, this is too close to Kraftwerk, you know. If you don't take it away or take it out again, then you will sue you, you know. And he does that to everybody who is using the letter K and R and A something, or you know, then already you have his lawyer on your neck.
Yeah, I know. I read the story. Looking back in your life, Harald, is any particular I don't know, a favorite track and memories from your past? If you a particular track or particular album with everything you have done, which you have done a lot of stuff, man.
Well, you know, most of the time I like always what I'm actually doing. You know, I'm a complete album is almost ready, and I'm looking forward to finish it. But first, I want to write all my memories. You know, want to finish that, and then I will continue working on that. Well, yeah, Moondawn is a great thing. You know, some Wallenstein numbers are really nice. Of course, my Synthesist album. Yeah, that's about it. You know, and of course, Correlations that's the peak. You know.
Yeah. When you say that I need to decide when you're working a new piece, is it difficult for a musician to decide this is good enough, or when you decide when it's finished, when it's done? Because you can listen to stuff, listen, and never been happy, right? Never decide, well, I want to change that a little bit here, a little bit there, and it might take weeks, right?
That's a motivation to keep on going, you know.
Yeah.
So never be really 100% satisfied, and it's very hard to decide it's the end now. I tend to have so many ideas, and if I put all that into one thing, it's too much. So most of the time when I work, when I have a really good feeling, I stop working, and then I go do the dishes, or you know, washing my laundry, or clean the house, or cook, or do something, or watch Netflix or whatever. And then a couple of days later, I go again, listen to it, and say, oh God, that's still good, and this is, I can repair, I can do other. I need to work quite a long time on pieces, you know. It's my way of working, and always keep distance in time to be able to. But the work I've done, and when I show it to other musicians, even musicians like Thorsten Queschnik or Paul Frick or Ramon Bostich from Mexico, they are studied musicians, you know, and they like my music, you know, and I think because I'm able to be much more innocent than people who had studied music, and it's much more, you know, killing traditions, or just I don't care about tradition, you know what I mean, because I don't know much about tradition. Another friend, he's a doctor of music, you know, he's a fan of mine, and he said, I analyzed your music, and I hear Arnold Schoenberg, you know, I just know the name, classical composer from the last century, or beginning of 19th century.
Yeah,
stuff like that I hear, you know, but I don't know how I'm doing. I'm intellectual. I can't explain what I'm doing, you know.
Well, if you like it, you know, if you like it, you're happy. That's your life. Your fans like it. That's all it takes. I don't, you know.
Exactly. This is the best part of my life. You know, I'm 71, and you know, I don't know how much time I have in front. You know, 20 years ago, I didn't give a fuck, but now it's coming. It's getting closer. Time flies, incredible. I mean, you experience it maybe too.
Yeah.
I have the feeling that time is going faster and faster. You know, my kids are 17 almost, and wow, it feels like yesterday. And another 17 years, and I'm almost 90. I can't imagine. You know, I hope I can do music until the coffin is
Closest.
yeah.
That's exactly for me, right? When I decided, because I like music so much, not just I don't play any instrument, Harold. I don't know how to read music. I love music. And I began listening music when I was a baby. My dad did have a lot of music in Chile. I was born in Chile.
Yeah,
So I began listening music, but uh I music is very important. I mean, not just your stuff, electronic music, but if you see in the back, right, the poster in the back there, on you know, from the Doors, from Led Zeppelin to Queen,
yeah,
Pink Floyd, the Depeche Mode. I like this is very important. It's very important part of my life. Is you know.
yeah. I mean, I like music that is authentical, you know,
Yeah.
and the Doors were authentical, Led Zeppelin were heavy rock, but I you know, like so many German bands, like I think Lutz already told it, copied Anglo-American music, you know, like this. And in the beginning of the 70s, I was fed up with rock music, and I looked for own expression and own technique, and to be free like these people were most of the times, you know.
Yeah.
That's why they created something which is unusual, is original, you know, unique.
No, absolutely, man. Any of your kids play music? They're into music?
My daughter, she can sing good, yeah, but they don't play an instrument. She started guitar, and after half a year, it was boring. My son is a computer nerd, you know. Really, he built his first computer. Almost, he was just 12 years old. You know, I touched my first computer. I was 41, I think. You know,
Wow.
I touched and he built one age 12. They're crazy. He knows so much about electronic and computer science and stuff. It's amazing. I'm amazed.
Is that a good job in Germany, being a computer scientist? Is
I think so. Still, it depends from in which direction, which business you work. I think.
yeah.
Well, we have a well-working economy still. So, I think if you're good enough, you can make a lot of money.
You know, I got you. So what kind of, when you're not working in your own stuff, what kind of music do you listen to? You listen to when you go shopping, or you go to in the car, on the radio? You listen to other stuff, or you want to concentrate yourself?
I don't listen to music.
Nothing.
You might call me ignorant.
No, I wouldn't.
The thing is, I sometimes I'm really annoyed when I go into a department store, and then bam, you are confronted with music, and in the street, and then you switch the radio on boring shit and stuff, and yeah, I don't listen for a long time. It happened to me. I don't listen very much to other music than my own stuff, which is really strange. I from watch that from outside. Well, of course there are some stuff I really like Underworld. You know, I really like them.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd was until 1976, 70. I saw them last time in Berlin, and I left the concert because I found it completely boring, and I was fascinated when I heard them in 1971. The first time in Hamburg, in a auditorium maximum of the university, 2,000 people, 4 marks, which is €2, which is like $2.20 for a seat. Yeah, and that was fantastic. That was fantastic in those times, you know.
What about Genesis? Peter Gabriel,
Genesis.
you like that kind of stuff?
the early stuff, you know,
Understand? Yeah.
I'm the very early stuff, and until when Peter Gabriel left and Phil Collins took over, it was not my music anymore.
Oh.
And then he made pop songs, and I couldn't stand it anymore because from every corner you heard, "I can dance deep," or you know, that was, I don't know. You know, you can't limit not hearing music. You know, wherever you go, my daughter's playing. Thank God they use headphones now.
Right.
But you know, I'm happy when it's silence and when I sit at my computer and music software and do my own music.
For sure. I'm going to be in a couple of weeks, in 10 days, I'm going to be interviewing Peter Michael Hamel as well, that I love his
Wow,
views.
Van der Graaf generator, yeah.
Huh?
What's a Van der Graaf generator? Yeah?
I
Van der
don't.
Graaf that was his band, Van der Graaf Generator.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, of course. Oh, we were great fans of that music in the 70s, yeah.
Peter
How
Michael
old is he?
Peter has done so much stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So much stuff. Has a wide range of things, man. It's
Well, System 7, we played with System 7 in Japan the first time.
yeah.
You know, like the gong people, you know,
Yeah.
What's his name? Guitarist, Gong.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Forgot his name, sorry. Yeah. Great music, you know, and very modern too, you know. And he's my age. They play guitar. His wife is computer, and then very techno-y music, and it really was going under the skin. But as I said, I wouldn't buy records of anybody, you know. I sometimes people send me records and give me their records, and most of the time I even don't listen to that. But don't tell them, you know.
So one day, you know what I would like to do, Harold? One day is that once, hopefully, I will have the opportunity to talk to Manuel and then Klaus Schulze and then have like a group meeting with you, Lutz, Klaus Schulze, Peter Baumann, everybody, Peter Michael Hammond, everybody into one Zoom meeting and talk about music.
That's a utopia, and I don't think that it will happen. You know, it would be nice, but I think Klaus is, as I mentioned, he's very sick, and he doesn't refuse. He refuses outside contact. You know, he's living with his wife, and he has to go to hospital 3 times a week. You know, his kidneys don't work no more, and I know that he hates hospitals and when you have the you know, blood cleaning, it completely weakens you for the whole day, and so he's very weak and just has contact to his technician and friend, and as I said, I phoned sometimes with him asking how is Klaus, and well, he for the situation he's doing well. But he doesn't want to see anybody.
He told me he's like an isolation. He doesn't do any interview, nothing. You know, it's difficult, man. So what? Go ahead.
And Manuel, I don't know. He's also very restricted. You know, talking to people, and so I don't know.
I will.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. So what are your plans for? I have 2 more questions. What are your plans for the near future? If assuming that the pandemic goes away and everybody can take the vaccine, you have any gigs, any touring?
No, everything was canceled, and there's no plans. Of course, I have the dream to perform, because I was in the last years. It took for me a very long time in my life to go on stage alone, you know, and perform. But I did it several times during the last years. A little tour in England. I was in Paris, and I really liked it. And I hope I can do that for a long time, you know. And sometimes inviting friends, but most of the time just one, you know. If there would be bigger financial investment, I would take more musicians on stage, but I like to reduce it to the possibility, and the possibility is to have a suitcase sitting in an airplane. Everything's in that suitcase, and even a drum kit is you can't take if they don't pay to rent one on the local spot, then you can't take a drum kit, But we'll see. I'm full of hope, and I like this isolation, and I like to work. I have no depression. I hope I'm not getting infected, and we'll see what will happen in the future.
Yeah, yeah, well, hopefully I will be able. Right, I told you that my family ancestor came from Munich. Did I tell you that?
From
No.
Munich?
Oh
No.
yeah. I will send you a link for all the graves.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The
going to Chile.
right. So in 1882, there was a
Wow.
big migration of Germans went to the south of Chile, like 10,000 people.
Hmm.
Italians, a big community moved to Argentina.
Yeah.
So in Chile, there is a big German community, big. My mother last name is Hoferber,
Uh,
Hochfarber. So I will send you a link to the grave. So I have gone twice
oh,
to Munich, and I was
yeah.
planning on going because I'm
Yeah.
looking to my family ancestor there.
Oh, yeah, because there are archives. I have a friend in Hollywood. His father was a German Jew
Yeah.
that escaped Hitler in 1933, went to France, became a French citizen, and he joined the French resistance to fight German Nazis. And then he immigrated with his wife, whom he met short after the war. They immigrated to Australia, and where my friend was born. And my friend became a famous Hollywood director or Australian director, and then he's living in Hollywood now. And I researched his German ancestors, and I found 12 members of his family he didn't know about,
Yeah.
and that kind of made our friendship also. And he got 200 documents of the documentation of the rip-off from the Nazis to the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Very, very sad, and on the other hand, very interesting. And that connected us, because he doesn't speak German, and he didn't know much about his family, just a few facts. And I found a lot of. He came. His name is his family name was Morawski, of Polish German Jews,
Yeah.
and his father didn't want to. He changed his name from Günther Morawski into George Mora. Yeah,
Ah,
he cut his name, and so Philip, that's his son, is called Philip Mora. And we made a film about our fathers, his fathers in the French resistance, and my Nazi father fighting for Hitler, ambushing Poland and Czechoslovakia. Very, very interesting. And there are interesting archives where you can find that out. I can send you links, and I
yeah.
can.
I
What is
I
very
went.
interesting?
Yeah. So I went to the archive in Munich, but I need to go
Oh
for
yeah,
another trip. What happened? There were two. The, that particular person did have two kids, right? One stayed in Munich, in the Bavaria area, and the other went to Chile. But his dad was very, very famous. Yeah. And then the grandpa was very, very famous in Germany. So now we're talking about 1772. So I've been emailing, but perhaps you can help me out. That I need to find out if in the link from the grave, if these two have kids. And I will send you an email later on.
we are very good in Germans are very good in
Keeping records.
documentation,
Yeah.
and because I was looking for the ancestors of my father's side, and I went to 1860,
Yeah.
and before that, the documentation was done by the churches. So if you have a grave, and if it's Catholic church and you have the area, ask the churches.
Yeah.
They,
No, I will.
they have the, maybe it costs some money, but I think it's worth it to do that.
Of course, yeah. I wanna, as I say, I wanna go back to Munich, hopefully when the virus is over, to do more research, and then I wanna fly to Berlin and have dinner with you, and then have dinner with Lutz and everybody.
I don't live in Berlin.
Where you live?
Near Cologne, which is 600 kilometers to the Dutch border, near the Dutch border.
I got you.
Cologne, which is completely west.
I will go to Cologne and visit you.
Okay, yeah, welcome. Yeah,
but that definitely I want to meet Lutz and Peter Michael Hammond. Everybody has been very good to me. Everybody.
So you immigrated from Chile, or your parents, or when did you immigrated to the States?
To the United States in 1986.
86, okay.
I believe.
And
when I finished,
you have the citizenship?
Yeah, I'm a U.S. citizen, right?
Cool. Yeah.
When I finished high school, I came here to study, and I ended up staying, and I have done well. I cannot complain.
What did you study?
Computer science.
Ah, my wife, she's a teacher for computer science and mathematics. So whenever I have problems with,
you call me.
I call you.
Yeah, no problem. I can help you.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. My son is a specialist already. I'm surprised, really. My wife too. She can program and she teaches children. And whenever we have problems with our telephone network, she manages that.
Wow, that's pretty good. Well, Harold, it was very, very, very nice talking to you. As I say, when we are done, I will upload the interview to the website, and then I will send you a link so you can post it your social media account. And it was a pleasure talking to you. I will send you an email with more questions. I definitely want to buy your music, and then one day, remember, we'll have a reunion. Peter Michael Hammond, Lutz, Harald, Klaus Schulze, Peter Baumann, everybody in one room to talk about music.
I'm in, no problem. Where do you live now? In Washington D.C. Where's that? Right. Seattle?
No. The other Washington. That's in the west. I live. If you look at I live in the border with Virginia and Washington D.C. Virginia.
Okay. I see. Okay. Yeah. Because I have a friend with the same name, Grosskopf. He's a professor, or he was a professor of psychology. His wife too. And they teach in Seattle, and he's a medical doctor too. And we made a great friendship, and I hope one day I can go to Seattle, and then I will visit you too.
Yeah, that's Washington. That's the other Washington. That's in the West Coast, in Seattle.
No. He's in Seattle is east. No, it's West Coast. You're right.
West. Right. So right. So remember, it's Washington. Right, it's Washington, Oregon, California,
exactly.
Oregon, and Washington. I live in the other Washington, in the East Coast.
So where it happened?
Yeah, where all the problems and all the struggling and the presidency and all the stuff. Yeah.
Well, I watched CNN during the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks on the riot thing, and the inauguration was very emotional. I hope that he can reconciliate,
of course,
this cracked country,
Of course, I completely agree. Yeah.
How
the situation in Germany? I mean, in the economy in Germany is stable. The economy, young people, can have kids, can have families, jobs.
Yeah, this is. The pandemic will create a lot of problems, but the economy is so powerful. We get support, and we can keep on going like that for quite a while, but I think it should end in summer, otherwise it will kill a lot of people. Restaurants are closed, and then because it will create a lot of resistance to the necessary rules, against that pandemic. A lot of people resist already, and that's not good. Yeah, because you can't control a whole country. It's impossible.
Sure. No,
so it needs a lot of voluntarily decisions to
people need to stay home and wear the mask and get vaccinated, and some people don't want to do that, you know. So
yeah, I know. Yeah,
everybody to cooperate. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. The government,
yeah.
they will depend on the people, right? Otherwise, we need to
Well,
lock it down another 3 months, another 3 months, another 3 months. That will destroy all the businesses.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're still lucky. We, compared to the other countries around us, we manage it quite good. But now England is hit pretty bad, and the vaccination is working, but it's still the reaction on the pandemic is not there yet. It's still the mutation still is bigger than the effect of the vaccination. You know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Harold, thank you very much for your time. We'll stay in touch. I will email you. Definitely, I want to buy your music, and I will send you some email too.
Hey, good luck. Thanks for the nice talk. Eh?
No problem. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Take it easy.
Okay.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios. Thank you.